I came into office at a time of great economic and international instability. Families and businesses were worried about how to pay their bills. Putin's illegal war in Ukraine threatens the security of our whole continent, and our country has been held back for too long by low economic growth. I was elected by the Conservative Party with a mandate to change this. We delivered on energy bills and on cutting national insurance. And we set out a vision for a low-tax, high-growth economy that would take advantage of the freedoms of Brexit. I recognise, though, given the situation, I cannot deliver the mandate on which I was elected by the Conservative Party. I have therefore spoken to His Majesty the King to notify him that I am resigning as leader of the Conservative Party. This morning I met the chairman of the 1922 committee, Sir Graham Brady. We've agreed that there will be a leadership election to be completed within the next week. This will ensure that we remain on a path to deliver our fiscal plans and maintain our country's economic stability and national security. I will remain as Prime Minister until a successor has been chosen. Thank you.
Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, Liz Truss, announcing she is stepping down, resigning about 6 weeks after taking office to begin with. Of course, Boris Johnson stepped down himself over the summer. Political upheaval in the United Kingdom. Let's bring back CNN's Bianca Nobilo for your reaction, Bianca, to this, frankly, stunning announcement.
John, this is stunning. A prime minister for 6 weeks. You'd think after the turbulence of the years that had come before that perhaps Britain would be in for a period of more stability, but certainly not. The Prime Minister said that she was elected on the mandate to address Britain's economic crisis, but that mandate was always slim, by less than 0.1% of the electorate, John. Now, the Prime Minister, I believe, might become the shortest ever serving Prime Minister. I know there was one deep in Britain's history who died unexpectedly after a period of weeks, but I think Liz Truss may be the shortest serving Prime Minister in these circumstances. She has acknowledged the pressure that has been building within her own party, the country at large. The last week saw polls come out putting her at the lowest approval rating of a Prime Minister ever. Other polls came out which showed that the Prime Minister and the people that elected her wanted her out, and they possibly wanted Boris Johnson in her place again. She then had resignations and more of her lawmakers coming out saying that it simply wasn't tenable for her to continue. The drip became a tidal wave of opposition to her staying in post. And what's happened today is the party grandees, the most influential members of the Conservative Party, the chairman of the party, the chairman of the powerful committee that chooses how prime ministers are elected, and her deputy prime minister and close confidant have all visited her in Downing Street. They've obviously discussed and acknowledged the political reality that she simply can't continue, John. And this was all set into another gear and largely precipitated by those chaotic scenes I was talking about last night that have led Conservative lawmakers to tell me and to tell the media that they were simply so ashamed, depressed and horrified at what their party has become.
Bianca, let's stay on this for a moment, if we can, and help the international and the United States audience understand what has happened over this short period of time. This was an administration that began, frankly, in turmoil with economic proposals that were wildly unpopular and were lashed out against by the economic system in the UK itself. So that was what set this all in motion. And then we got to the point where we are today. What are the possible implications now, really, for the rest of the world, for the United Kingdom, which has been a staunch supporter of Ukraine, of course, a key ally to the United States? What changes, what might we see there?
John, you make an important point, because Liz Truss is both a victim and an architect of her political misfortune. A victim because she became Prime Minister at a time when the country was in deep economic turmoil. We've just had inflation figures go into double digits. That was announced yesterday, 10.1% in the United Kingdom over the last month. But she also had a series of unforced errors. For example, that economic package which you referenced, which she announced after becoming Prime Minister, went a lot further and faster than what she'd promised in her leadership campaign. It had tax cuts for the wealthiest in the country, slashing of corporation tax, and other measures that deeply unsettled the markets and sent them into a spiral, causing the Bank of England to make this unprecedented financial intervention. It caused deep consternation within the party. It was very difficult to find any economists that could agree with the course that she was taking. And this made many within her party question not only her economic judgment, but also her political judgment. Because at a time when the country was grappling with this cost of living crisis, and a lot of people in Britain are wondering whether or not they can afford to pay both their heating and their food bills, the Prime Minister announcing reducing taxes for the wealthiest and removing caps on bankers' bonuses. It's just very peculiar political decision-making and terrible optics. So after that happened, and then Britain once again looks like an unstable partner and an unstable ally. This has been a motif and a reoccurring theme since Brexit, that sometimes the country can't be trusted. There have been promises from Boris Johnson to break international law and others. In terms of where Britain finds itself now, in a deeply embarrassing and unstable position, and this has been the concern from lawmakers within Liz Truss's own party. They can see how this is being interpreted, not just by this country, but the world at large. Britain had been playing an influential role in Putin's invasion of Ukraine. It's a key partner to the United States and is an important part of that transatlantic alliance, and still does have a major role to play in Europe and on the continent. But when we're having a revolving door of prime ministers and chancellors and home secretaries, clearly it's a very difficult partner to engage with. And there has been shock and consternation on the continent as well about what is really happening here in Britain. And we even had Joe Biden speaking out last week, expressing his concerns about the policy direction that Liz Truss was taking. And as we both know, that's quite unusual for a president to do and to remark of a key ally.
All right, Bianca, stand by, if you will, for a moment. Brianna?
All right, I want to go ahead and bring in Christian Amanpour to talk about this stunning turn of events in Britain. Christian, I don't think we can overstate how significant this is. The shortest serving Prime Minister, Liz Truss, and what this is going to mean at an incredibly chaotic time in Britain.
That's right. And that is, according to the stats, official. She is the shortest serving. The last time was in 1827, when after more than 100 days, the Prime Minister resigned. Those are just the stats. But what you have here has been the drip, drip, drip since she met the Queen. You remember the first dramatic picture of Liz Truss was when she met the Queen on the eve, 2 days before the Queen died. And that was the last official action that the Queen did under her constitutional role as monarch. And then it looked like Liz Truss almost had a baptism of light, really, that she was going to take this mandate and move on to what could have been a successful premiership. Except, she decided, in cahoots with her then Chancellor, to settle on a financial package, which they dubbed a mini budget, that nobody knew about, nobody approved, and there was no mandate for, that sent the markets tumbling and has sent this country rocking and ricocheting from one disaster to the next over the last more than a month or so. And she could no longer hang on. Her members of her party, starting from last night officially, and maybe just before, even on my program, started to say that we will not support her, we cannot support her, she has to go. The question is, after she's made this extremely short statement outside Downing Street, the question is what happens next? What is the procedure? We're told that there should be a leadership contest, but what she's laid out in a very, very short time, she suggested that within a week or so, a new leader should be found. Well, how does that go to even the members? What's happening here is a distinct lack of the democratic process, Bianca, because she was not elected by the people. And this is what happens after 12 years of this party in power, through austerity, through Brexit, through the demise of Britain on the foreign stage, except for in Ukraine. This is what's happened. A country that, a party that appears to be unaccountable to the people. So you've heard the Labour opposition leader, Sir Keir Starmer, today again say there needs to be a national election, a general election to help this country out of the crisis that it is now, and at least put it to the people.